Okay, Olamide is muted now. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you so much, Olamide. Okay, okay. I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish. Go on.
Okay, beautiful. She'll be moderating the panel session with my homeschooling tribe. Mrs. Jejalola Mako Baba would be moderating the session with my homeschooling tribe.
Thank you so much, Olamide. Honestly, I'm floored. Let me just start by saying I am completely floored. And when Mrs. Odusi reached out to us, when she reached out to me at first, she said, oh, she's putting together the conference and she just wanted, it's good to have experience from someone in the United States, in a developed country. But, she was looking for a family here that does homeschooling. And, she met us, she met me, and I introduced her to our group, our support group we have, my homeschooling tribe. And she said, oh, she was looking for one and she found 10. But I'm sure now, at this conference, even I am floored. I've been looking through the charts right from when Ms. Oduwole was sharing, right from when the Honorable Commissioner was speaking as well. And I am honestly just floored. And I really just want to say a very, very big thank you to Mrs. Odusi, to the Eridan group, to the Melting Pot, and everyone who has come together to put this conference together. It is saying that it is eye-opening is a complete understatement. So a very, very big thank you to you. So my homeschooling tribe, that's what we're called. A group of people who have come together, starting from 2 people. And, like the title said, we're just running at the deep end, literally not sure what we were doing. But like Mr. Oduwole said, we had found our why. We knew what the purpose was. We knew what we had chosen an option and we had decided this is what we want to do, but not being fully aware of what resources we had, what's available to us. And from 2, we gradually grew and we're now at 12 and, deliberately trying to keep it as a, close-knit group. And out of the 12 of us, there are 6 of us here today. So we also have Mrs. Matilda Ukufi, who is a parenting coach. She is also an author and a writer. And by the side, she bakes some really, really lovely treats. She doesn't really talk about that much, but some absolutely lovely treats. We also have with us Folashade Olayemi, who is an early years educator and a fine artist. We have Oluwaseun Akimulero, who is a public health researcher and a homeschooling mom. We have in our midst as well, Patricia Onyechekwe. Patricia is first an architect, and then she has been a teacher in a school classroom setting. And now, she's now a teacher in a homeschool setting. Then we also have Tomi Nweke. Tomi is an early childhood care development and education specialist. So, just from the titles, you can see that it's a very interesting mix. And that's one of what I found to be, it was completely unintentional. We didn't go searching for any. One of our greatest strengths, because we have in our midst not only people with years of experience in the classroom, but they've also made a decision to transform to homeschooling in various forms. And and we have the specialists. So when we feel like I'm a little confused, I'm not really sure, right there in our midst, right there in our WhatsApp group, we bring up the question and we get professional answers we know that we can bank on, not only, because of their years of experience in the classroom, but because they have also been certified professional. So today we've come here just to, encourage anyone who's planning on starting this journey, anyone who is already on the journey and not sure how to navigate it, anyone who is going through struggles, and the truth is, there are struggles, like I said earlier on, we started this on a whim, or we started it out of, maybe during the pandemic, like what's going on here? I've noticed the difference. Oh, let me try this other way. I'm going to do this. We are like, I'm not qualified. Am I a good teacher? A lot of the conversation that Mr. Oduwole had, and a very big thank you to Mr. Oduwole for coming to share his story. Whilst he was sharing, we were just like, oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. A lot of the things he did share not only did they confirm some of the questions we have in our mind, but also very inspiring. You know, it's one thing to have, you know, a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old. You see, like, I'm still in the early years gap group. But then when you see someone like Zuriel who has achieved so much in her life, then it's just very inspiring. And like, I can do this all the way. So a very big thank you to the Oduwole family. And I'd like to, you know, I'd just like for all those of us on the call to share our stories. And I'd like to also start with Matilda. Matilda, if you'd like to please just go ahead and tell us, how did you find yourself here, and why have you made the decision to stay in this on this path?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Mrs. Odunsi, for this opportunity. Thank you all for this opportunity. Really, like you said, it was a pandemic. Last year was like a 2020 year for everyone. Like, clarity came for many of us. We started to reflect on what we're doing. And for us as parents, it was interesting because for the first time ever, we're able to be a part of our children's learning, because they were learning online. So you were watching them learn, watching them interact with their teachers and their peers. You could observe the gaps. You could tell where the challenges were. And for us, yes, online learning was an amazing blessing in regards to the fact that they could learn while they were at home. But I hadn't thought about homeschooling my children until I realized that my younger children, who are currently 4 and 2, at the time were 2 and 3, were trying to learn online, and it was a challenge for us because they weren't able to stay online consistently without getting bored or losing interest and things like that. For me, it was so stressful. But I have an older son who at the time was 7, now 8, and he just took to it so easily. He just started interacting he's very tech inclined and all that. But for us, it was observing through the period of online learning, and there were still some gaps. Like I said, the first time we were able to observe them learning, which we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if we were going to classroom school. You don't see how they learn, and you wouldn't know the gaps. You just see the report cards, and you don't know. So for us, we started getting restless, and we saw that there were gaps that we couldn't really get filled. The school, of course, is a good school doing their best, but for us, like Mr. Towale was saying, knowing your child, for us, knowing who he was and seeing the challenges he was having, it was so frustrating, and I felt so restless, and I was feeling very helpless. And I was like, you know what? I'm having an eyesight talking to people who were in that space, educationists and people who could, guide us. And it just came to that realization that we have to do something. We can't just carry on because we don't have any other solution. It couldn't be about changing school, because I couldn't guarantee that I would have a different experience in a different school. So it was about trying to close those gaps, and that's how we got into homeschooling. And of course, I probably spoke to you as well, because I found that you were homeschooling your kids, and just realizing that people were doing it, and I just felt a bit, okay, you know what? But the truth is, I did have hesitation. I did have questions, will I qualify to do this? How is it going to be? I knew from the beginning that it would require commitment and consistency, and I wasn't certain, okay, I want what's for my child, but can I be the one that provides that? But like Sojo Wale said, listening as well. So we really did take this to more than just ourselves, and not just my ability. I just went in head on, and we had a lot of support from even his past teachers who knew my son and gave us like, this is something you can do. I'm sure you can do this. So it kind of helped. And then finding a community of people who were doing the same. I cannot overemphasize the importance of a support system, because I didn't know everything. Most of what I'm doing now, any success I can record now, I can say that I learned a lot from the group I belong to, people who had resources to share, moral support. You can do this, try this out, check this out. And knowing that I went in there while thinking that it has to be like a classroom, you have to do it like school, 7 periods a day. And I learned really quickly to take the pressure off, to adjust it to my family, to my children. And the truth is, homeschooling for me has supercharged my parenting, because I'm more aware of my children. I'm more aware who they are, their potential, capabilities, things I was not paying attention to at all. And I'm not saying nobody going to dump down regular school. There's a place for that, and we're blessed that we've even gone through that system. But right now, homeschooling is working for us. There's unlocked so much possibility, so much potential. There's amazing resources. I feel quite empowered. I'm looking to learn more. In fact, we're always learning. We're signed up for courses all the time, because there's so much out there to help us do better. Exceeding amount of resources to support us as parents. So really and truly, those are the pros. It's not a walk in the park, as we all know, those of us who are homeschooling, it's not a walk in the park at all. However, the rewards are are remarkable. The progress I observe in my children, the change, the confidence, their skill levels, just seeing them flourish and knowing I'm a part of that process, it empowers me and builds my confidence. So that's why, if you say, why am I still in it? Because I haven't seen any reason why, I haven't seen any reason to step out. I see every reason to continue. And I say to you guys all the time, if I were to even go back to regular school, I will not stop homeschooling. It will be something I keep doing because I see that it makes a huge difference. Knowing your child and supporting your child, I can't replace that with anything. So yeah, that's me. That's what got me in, and that's why I'm still in homeschooling.
Awesome. Awesome stuff, Matilda. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I know the story also well, but every time I hear it, it's just always, brings it all back for me. And there's something that I know that I'm just going to, emphasize here is the confidence. I remember you shared with us just the switch you saw in your son. And I follow Matilda's story very closely because she's just a few years, ahead of my first child. So she's almost like my immediate next steps. So, so I followed quickly. And, I remember very well, one day you shared with us and you said, your son came to you and hugged you and was saying, oh, thank you, mommy. You're a fantastic teacher. You're the best teacher ever. And you just saw that, that glow, coming from the inside of him showing. And, we've just come out of panel sessions and they're talking about the total child. And it's just really important to make sure that whatever option you choose, be sure that it fits, not only the educating needs of the child, but also their emotional needs. So I wanted to bring that out, that's something we also experience even as homeschooling parents. So like I mentioned, Patricia is a trained architect who is also now an early years educator. And I find her story interesting and I really would like her to share with us. So she's been in the physical classroom as a teacher. And now she's chosen to be a homeschooling teacher. So not a homeschooling parent, but for families who would rather the children be homeschooled. So she provides that service. And I'd like you to please speak to us just around what are the, one versus this. What have you noticed? The good, the bad, just what's your experience? How do they compare?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Like she has introduced, I'm an architect turned teacher, a very proud one at that. And I have experienced proper classroom in an authentic Montessori environment for 3 years before I moved on to homeschooling professionally. And I've done that for about 5 years. I have homeschooled 2 toddlers at different times and a set of twins that were on the spectrum for autism. And in my experience, like I always say, what's the essence of education? Education is to prepare individuals for life. And my experience in formal, not say formal, but in a structured environment was preparing children for life. Now, the difference is in terms of curriculum implementation. When you are homeschooling a child, it's more intense because it's one-on-one. You're able to observe the child better. You're able to meet the child's need as you see. So the power of observation is higher when you are homeschooling. However, in the Montessori school where I worked, which was an authentic Montessori school, we had a system where the children in your classroom were divided into groups, and you had, in a particular day, you had your focus groups. And then in those days, you give lessons to those children and you also observe them. And so, yes, there was still the room to, observe and flexibility of learning. But however, in all honesty, when you have 10 or 15 children, it's different from when you have 2 children. So that's the major difference, In terms of the curriculum implementation, it's still possible to be flexible. However, it is easier when you are home learning. I don't know if that, yes. And then another difference or major point is the learning environment. As educators, we understand that the learning environment is the greatest teacher. And we as adults are also part of the learning environment. And in the Montessori school where I worked, as much as possible, they tried to create a home setting. So there was the kitchen area, there was the area where the children could read, there was the walking area and all that. But however, in a home learning, learning begins from when the child wakes up, and so what we have done, because I co-own a company called Homeschool Network Lagos. We set up learning environments at home to ensure that whatever the child would typically learn in school, the child can learn at home. Because some parents get concerned in terms of, okay, somebody has a question for me. Okay, I think I'll take that when I'm done. So yes, so one of the concerns parents have, especially when they want to homeschool, is the environment. And I always say to them, there's a lot you have in your environment that would enable your children learn. You know, you just need to put the right structure into it. And so those were the major differences as a teacher that has worked in a formal setting and a teacher that has worked in the home learning environment. Now, there are other things that come to fees and assessments, but I don't want to overstep my time so that I can have my other members of my tribe talk. But those are the basics for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. You know, and you bring up a point that I have a question, and you know, I'll bring this up a little later, but I just wanted to mention it, is the detail or the efficacy of assessing one child versus needing to assess many children in a group. And, you know, it's a situation that I've had before, and I completely understand the logistical challenge of, you know, the need to assess a larger group versus one child, because I did have a question for, you know, one of the schools my children have been to say, so they use the focus week system. And in the focus week system, that's the week that they're going to spend assessing the child. You know, and I said, look, so what if you don't observe the thing you're looking for in that week? What if you've observed it before, or what if you've observed it later? But you do a focus week and then you give me a report based on that week. Are we going to update the report? You know, but you know, so I'm putting that out there just for, you know, hopefully educators to consider. And maybe this is unique to the particular school that that I'm speaking about, but it's a us as homeschooling parents, you know, and I mean, I brought that up because you did mention that you have seen the difference and the efficacy of assessing one child versus assessing many, you know, when it's a larger group. But right now, I want us to hear from Oluwaseun Akimulero, who is so she's a public health researcher and a homeschooling mom. So she's a working mom. I know many times people tend to think that homeschooling moms, you're a stay-at-home mom, you're running your own business, you know, you have all the time in the world just to focus on the child. You know, so, you know, I'd just like Oluwaseun to share her experience and how she does this as a working mom.
Thank you very much, Jalala. That's a very good question. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Let me start by saying that the benefit of being part of a homeschool support group cannot be overemphasized. My homeschooling journey has been rewarding, thankfully, but I'd like to mention that this is largely attributed to the support, the encouragement, and the influence from the homeschooling tribe that I'm pleased to be part of. While this is not to say there are no concerns or have not had overwhelming times in my journey, or even thought of self-doubts, I've had unpleasant comments said to me, you know, and honestly, I do not blame them. I've just learned that those comments were made out of concern. My decision, my strong why for choosing homeschooling as a working mom has been my strength to carry on. You know, in life, everyone's got a unique path that is driven by goals and objectives. So I tell myself, homeschooling doesn't require perfection. It doesn't at all. So as a working mom who, you know, decided to embrace homeschooling, I thought about it during the pandemic and I started, and fortunately I've continued amidst the misconception of what homeschooling really is. I've really come to terms to understand that homeschooling is just an elective home education that can be conducted by a parent or a tutor who is willing, prepared to make the commitment that is required. So knowing that, I just thought to myself, okay, in this journey, if I get to the point that I can't do it as a working mom, I would definitely employ a tutor that would carry on the journey for me. So coming to that realization and the understanding of what homeschooling is, I'm able to, work things around. So I get asked by people, especially my colleagues and even close friends, that does homeschooling happen in Nigeria? And I answer, I tell them homeschooling is not country dependent. It is what it is. It's a child-centered education. It's kind of funny when people say that. I'm like, no, it happens in Nigeria. And I was really surprised when I saw in the chat where some other parents and some other people put there that they've been homeschooling for 3 years. I even saw 10 years and I was like, whoa, we've all just been existing in silos, right? So I would say that the homeschooling support group has been phenomenal in my journey. I really cannot take credit for all of the things that, is happening in my journey. The support is just mind-blowing. And let me end by saying that making the decision for anyone that is considering either a working mom or a stay-at-home mom, anyone that is, considering homeschooling, I would say that homeschooling requires a lot. But particularly, let me stress that the need for support would help you. The need for support will carry you on. The need for support, the support from my homeschooling tribe has just been the drive for me. I remember telling Jojo so many times that you're an hero for me, because as a working mom, I never thought that was going to be possible. But to be honest, I'm in on this journey. And also, in addition to the support from the homeschooling tribe, I would also say that I am thankful that I have a supportive husband, who is also willing and committed in this homeschooling journey. So it's important that, if you want to consider this homeschooling journey, have the buy-in of your partner, have the support of a partner, because it's really important. There will be times, there will be overwhelming times you would consider that, am I really making, the right decision? But when you have someone that, can give you that drive, that ginger, you would, carry on and all of that. So we are both intentional in this journey, my husband and I. We're both intentional. I'm grateful to God. And then from time to time, review, and then we make informed decisions. So really what has kept me on, and I have a personal mantra, I tell myself, it's one day at a time. Like when we wake up, whatever we do today, and that's it. The next day, that's it. So far, it's been a very good ride, and I hope it will continue to be that. So thank you very much, Jojola, for the opportunity, and I'm most grateful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shil. I feel like I've just learned, honestly, it is so one day at a time. Like, it's like I also mentioned, taking the pressure lead off and just one day at a time. Thank you so much. And there are a couple of things that you mentioned that I'd like to, just speak a little bit more on as well. When you talked about first, the support of the spouse. And I know that this could also be a struggle, for many, and it's such a great thing to have. Sometimes you have it from the get-go. Sometimes you have to find it. In my case, my husband wasn't into it. He was just like, let these children go to school, let these children go to school. But, he saw the commitment, he saw the results. And not only did he see the results from what he witnessed at home, people will see our kids and be like, so sharp, what school do they go to? And then he was realizing that, oh, okay, so this is actually working, so it is actually working, so yes, that happens. And indeed, the other thing you said, as a working mom, and I think it was Tomi I was in a conversation with before, where she said she was in a conversation with someone, and the person said, oh, if you have not sat down to do the work by yourself and do the teaching to your child, then you have not homeschooled. And that is not true. Otherwise they won't have a mission, so there's so many variations of it. And I did a self-learning not too long ago, and one of the biggest takeaways from that learning for me is no two homeschooling programs are the same. It's about you, it's about your child, it's about your environment. There's no, this is the format. There's no, this is how to do it. Even within us here, some of us are doing a hybrid solution. Some of us are, And Oluwaseun also mentioned something about self-doubt. Some of us actually having that self-doubt. Oh, did I make the right decision? I've put my children back in school. Should I pull them back? You know, it really is one day at a time. And that self-doubt thing is so real, you know, and everyone here talks about the strength of the tribe. And I'm so grateful for that. Is to always just remember, this is my why. This is why I started to do this. And once you have that as your North Star, then you're able to forge on. And at this time, I'll just also like, Folashade Olayemi, who is a professional again and also experiential early years educator. She started off as a fine artist, that's her background. She's homeschooling her 2 sons at this time. And I like to, so again, coming from a background of being in a school and just, I know you've had experience with the traditional, school. You've had a brief experience with an alternative learning school as well. Knowing all you know and also your experience with your children, what is it that is missing? What would you like to see that would make this homeschooling journey complete for you?
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thank you, Jojola, again. I will continue to say thank you for the support of the group. I'm not perfect, even though I've had experience. Thank you for everything. Okay, what would make my experience? I was thinking today that when I was talking about this conference to someone today, and the person asked me a question was like, "So, I didn't know you have been schooling your children. So how are they been coping with them? How did she put it? How have they been coping with it?" I thought everything was fine. She was like, "Okay, so what about mixing with other children?" And I think for me, as a mother, I have the support of this homeschooling tribe, even though I'm relatively new. But I've been looking for support for so long. As early as I started doing the homeschooling thing, I didn't know, it wasn't. I felt that okay, I was alone because I felt that maybe I'm just alone in this, and maybe people think people are not really doing this stuff. But I think for me, what is actually missing now is for me to find the support system. Same thing for my kids. We have limitation of where they can go to. Aside from the academics that we do daily. I would like to see them. Have a support system to themselves with their peers. More places, where they apart from where the places that we've visited, the places they have visited while they were in traditional school. I like to see facilities springing up for basically homeschool mothers, homeschool parents, where we can just meet and with other children from other homeschooling parents, where they can just be themselves. Because if you really look at it, children, the best education you can give to them is for them to be able to, do their own learning themselves, not you hovering on them and giving them, oh, this is what I think you should do. Because that was one of the reasons why we have to leave traditional school, where I would want to teach my son. I'm doing bulk of the work this time for the teachers because I am an educator, and like, the mom will help them now. She's an educator, and then they come home and then I'm like, the kids are like telling me, "Mom, no, this is how my teacher said I should do this thing." The way you are telling me, I'm trying to tell my son, we can get to the market taking different routes, and my son is telling me, no, my teacher says this is how I should do it, and this is how I must do it. And for me, I want my kids to be able to visit places with other children. Have facilities where they can just go mix with other children and then do different from academics, share experience with other children that are being homeschooled, not necessarily, academics this time. They can build things with their hands. They can, exchange the things they do to me at home. Like when they learn new stuff, they come to me and tell me, "Mom, do you know that they share experience in sciences? Do you know when you eat stuff like this, it can upset your stomach? Do you know you cannot mix banana and apples together because you have, And I'm like, wow, you learn all this thing on your own. I'd like to see places springing up like that. We have limitations of places like that. So for me, that's what is missing. And I want them to have a support system as well, like I'm having from my homeschooling tribe.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. And your need is my personal project. That's something looking for, I'm keen on, and constantly looking for people to work with, I'm speaking to Tommy, I'm speaking to this person and that person. How can we make this happen? We need to build that center, that place we can go to on that we choose to, and just say, we're hanging out as a tribe. And very quickly, we don't have a lot of time left, and I'd just like Tommy to share. So Tommy's story I find interesting, and I'm hoping that in about 2 to 3 minutes, she can very quickly enlighten us. So she started off as an educator. So she was teaching in a school, and then she's now gone to do the degrees. And that suggests to me that she wants to deep dive. She wants to do it better. So she's now a specialist, early childhood care, development, and education. So not just education, care, development, and education. And she did this simultaneously. She did this while homeschooling her 2 boys during the pandemic. Hats off to you, Tommy. But my question is, and I'm wondering, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with this? What next? If you can please help us do that in about 2 minutes, because I think we have 1 or 2 questions from the people, so we can take this too.
All right, good evening, everybody. It's been such an inspiring time at this conference. Honestly, I don't know what more I can add, but I'll just talk about my personal journey briefly and try to answer Jeje Lola's question. My journey started, I read international oil and gas management, and then I had children. And my journey started when I just started to think about the ways that we learned as children, we were taught as children, and what benefit or what disservice, really, in other terms, that we had. I was privileged to go to a really, really popular primary school that is still in existence 60 years down the line now, and it was then a privilege. But then I look back at my journey in primary school especially, and I thought about how difficult it was for me to actually learn, even though I was supposed to be one of the best schools in Nigeria at the time, and still supposed to be one of the best schools in Nigeria now. And I thought I can do, this shouldn't be this difficult, and I resigned from my job, and my children were little, and then I joined this mom group, Pop Lagos, which was a fantastic thing then. And I started to realize that there were alternative models, alternative ways to learn, alternative ways to teach children, and that got my attention. I then began to teach, like Jeje Lola said, in a really popular school in the island, and I realized that we're very prescriptive in the way we teach in Nigeria. It should be this way. We put children in a box, and we don't let their creativity flourish. We don't let them solve problems in the literal sense of the word. And that's what education should be about. Education should be about raising problem solvers. So that's how I decided that if you want to tackle a system, you want to make a change in the system, it became bigger than providing this for my children, and became, how can I affect change in the Nigerian education system? And I just thought to myself, if I want to do this, the beginning of doing this is to actually understand what is going on in the Nigerian educational system today. Basics is to understand what traditional teaching is, and then build from there to learn more about alternative methods and realize what the problems are and how to solve the problems, right? So that's how come I was homeschooling. So I was homeschooling, teaching my children even before the pandemic. And I know Jeje Lola too was doing some form of homeschooling even before the pandemic started. And then I decided to before the pandemic started, I had decided to register for a postgraduate diploma in education, which just seemed like the logical entry point for a newbie in this space. So I decided to start that. Hats off to, sorry, it's not a paid advertisement, but hats off to Corona College of Education, which is where I went to, and they did a fantastic job with us. I ran dual degrees. I did a postgraduate diploma in education and a postgraduate diploma in early childhood care and development education as well. And so from there, I realized that there is so much work to be done. I've felt so lonely, but to see all the people now in this that are trying to solve the problem, my question now, what Judging the last question is, what do I hope to achieve? Why did
In
I?
30 seconds, please,
Yeah, so
Tumi.
what I hope to achieve is to actually bring to existing schools, what we call traditional schools, is to infuse alternative education, alternative learning methods with them. And not only in traditional schools, the way to do it is through curriculum development, is through participating with the government. And that's my purpose.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. We're out of time, and I mean, so much to share. Really, even our weekly calls go up for 2 hours sometimes. So there's no way we can cover it. We can cover it here. But thank you again for the opportunity to share our journey, and hopefully we've encouraged someone. Our minds are blown. We're looking to expand this. And Mr. Dusi, this is our charge to you. We've agreed this as a group. Please find a way to bring us all together, to connect us to the other homeschoolers in the country. We had no idea. We want to grow as well. We want to partner, and we want to take this to the next level. Thank you again for the opportunity. And thank you all for listening to us. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.